SML, welcome to our 2021 mock team draft. After we just had our evals released, we got Matt here, and we're going to go over who we think the guys are going to take. I adjusted the order a little bit to make up for some possible math mistakes. So we got Knowles slid up a little bit, Lawyer dropped back one spot, and Dump is pretty much the same spot. There was like a 1 point difference. The only other change I made was I moved ZZ ahead of Spooky because I think right now he's down 8 points, but he's got this whole season. All right. So you ready to get started, Matt?
Yeah, I'm fired up. I know we still got half a season left and with Madden 21, but Madden 22 is gearing up with the ratings coming out, so I'm excited to kind of foreshadow where some people will go.
Yeah, I think with some of the ratings coming out, obviously not much, but maybe guys are starting to get an idea. And with that said, we'll just jump right into number one. And I don't think there's any debate here. Number one, Prime is obviously going to take the Colts. I don't even think he's going to smoke screen it this year as much as he said he's taking the Colts.
Yeah, I've only been in the league for a few seasons. I don't know everybody all that well or past drafts, but one thing I know is Prime's going to take the Colts no matter what he says, so that's an easy one.
Yeah, there's nothing there that's going to be different. So I didn't even give him a backup team because what we did obviously picked three teams for each guy, and we'll talk about those three teams. So for myself at number two, I went with the Browns. I think they may just be too much my favorite team to pass on them, but I have Washington with Chase Young, and that defense is going to be really good, almost close to what I got on the Jacksonville team already. And then obviously Fields in Chicago, but I think as of right now, it's going to be the Browns at number two.
Yeah, I looking at this, I think I would switch the Bears and the Browns for you. Just my own personal opinion and what I've been thinking. I think once all of the ratings come out, I think when you see Justin Fields, you might change your mind a little bit, but I think it really comes down to those three teams for sure. And I know Cleveland is your team. Miles Garrett looks nasty. In fact, that whole team's going to look pretty incredible once it comes out. So. I think it's between the Bears and the Browns for you, and obviously you'll have your pick and you'll go with either one. But I'm leaning Bears for you.
Okay, yeah, I mean quarterback has been a sore spot to say the least for me this cycle, and I'm having success with Joe Green, who's a mobile quarterback. He doesn't have the X factors and all that, but just a little bit of speed has kind of opened up my offense. And if anybody out of those three teams is going to do it, it would be Justin Fields. So you might be onto something there.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if it might be a long shot, but
Yeah.
if he is superstar, I think that's going to push you over the edge,
Oh,
and
if
you're
he's
going to go to
superstar, you
the
can flip flop
NFC
those
North.
teams right now.
Yeah.
That would easily make my decision there. Um, all right, so number three, we got Mike FML. His three teams are Miami, the Jets, and I gave him the Chargers. So my thinking here was Mike likes his young quarterbacks. He likes a team that's fairly already built, and he likes his draft picks. Hence the Jets and the Dolphins there. But I think I think the Chargers are just going to be too good to pass up, um, and I think he'll be able to avoid maybe certain individuals that he doesn't want to be in divisions with. So I think the Chargers are going to be the pick for him.
Yeah, Mike's kind of one of those wild cards where he could pick any of the 32 teams, and I probably wouldn't be awfully surprised. Um, he's just always kind of done that. I like the Chargers pick. I think, like you said, the good young quarterback. That's just going to be a good team all around. There's really not a whole lot of weakness on that team for him. Similar to that line of thinking, I wouldn't put the Chiefs past him. Um, I think that's also a team that has a young quarterback and is set up on offense. Uh, it's kind of similar to the Packers. They have a very, very good quarterback, some really good receivers. I could see him going the Chiefs too, just to have that really good team. But really, with Mike, gosh, I have no clue what that guy's gonna do.
Yeah, he's a tough one. Like I said, I figured young quarterback is the only thing really that I used to judge it, and assumed that he would want picks, and I kind of had him uh, kind of pegged as one of the guys that doesn't want to stay in the same conference. So he was NFC last season. I thought maybe he would switch to AFC this year. I think he actually was NFC the last two cycles. So
Yeah, I could definitely see him wanting to switch the conference up, but who he goes with, that's not the slightest idea.
Yeah, and picking at 3, he's not going to really have too much choice of who's in his division. So
That's true.
it's a tough spot if you're trying to avoid somebody. Um, but at pick number 4, we have Woods, and for just about everyone else who I think is going to take their favorite team if they're available, I left openings. But Woods keeps throwing out hints that he's not going to take Jacksonville, or he may not take them. Um, Maybe he's trying to run from prime. But I've got him taking Jacksonville. The only other two options I saw for him, uh, the 49ers, they kind of mimic the Browns teams that he's had the last two cycles, where they have a really strong defense, and a pretty good offense, especially getting Trey Lance. And these two teams, the other one is the Buccaneers, they're kind of on there for opposite reasons. One, he could have Trey Lance and have a good quarterback for the cycle. Or I have him taking the Buccaneers. Same thing, solid defense, really good offense, but Tom Brady should be gone after like a year or two, so he can continue his quarterback carousel.
Yeah, Woods is going to take a good team. What has he been the Browns the last 2 years?
Last
I'm
two,
not
yeah,
quite sure. Yeah, so he's going to take a stacked team, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that he's a Jags guy. I think that's gonna the Jags are going to be his pick
yeah,
unless he now it gets interesting if if you flip to Chicago or Washington or some other team because then he's going to have the Browns again and the Jags. But I think 3 years in a row with the same team. I think he's going to go Jags. How do you pass up Trevor Lawrence? Um, ooh, and let me step back. I'm going to put the Jags on Mike's radar, but
okay,
Mike's the kind of guy that won't pick your team.
yeah,
Unless he was in front of Prime. um, but I think the Jags are a sneaky pick for Mike. But I think knowing there's some Jags fans below him, he's going to let him slide, and I think Woods takes him for sure.
yeah. And I think Mike has even mentioned if Woods was going to take the Jags, that he wouldn't take them. So, but then you have to kind of wonder, is Woods definitely going to take him? Which I think he will. Like you mentioned,
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence. If there's ever a year to be the Jags, this would be it. Getting probably Trevor Lawrence at maybe his best starting spot ever. If he ends up being a bust, it's not going to matter because he's going to start as an X factor most likely.
Yep. You gotta take the Jags and get Trevor Lawrence in there. Especially, if things don't pan out for him this year, maybe they drop him back down as far as Dev, and they're not as exciting next
Yep.
year. That's always a possibility. Take them while they're hot and roll with them. That's going to be a super super fun team to have.
Yeah, and I mean they're going to have a lot of flexibility too. You're going to have Tebow. James Robinson should be significantly improved from this year. Travis Etienne, even if he's a receiver, is going to be a problem. So I don't see any way he passes these guys up.
I agree.
All right, so number 5 is Meats. Everybody knows the story with Meats. He's got to have a mobile quarterback. Um, so I listed him with 3 teams that have mobile quarterbacks. The Buffalo Bills, who should have escape artist on Josh Allen. The Bears, obviously with Justin Fields. But then I have him going to the Dolphins. He'll be able to switch conferences. He'll get Tua, who's just enough of a pocket passer that maybe he can get away from the escape artist kind of narrative that's been following him around. And then he's going to have tons of room to kind of play with that roster. And not to mention an exciting rookie in Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I think those are three pretty solid teams for me. We all know what he's looking for. And you mentioned he can switch conferences, but one thing he can't switch is the throwing arm of Tua. Well, there's some rumors that he could switch that, but I think those are just some jabs. I think a lefty QB. I think what's going to happen is when the game drops, Meats is going to really, really play with the Dolphins a lot and see what that left-handed QB looks like, or maybe he's already doing that in 21. Um, I think a surprise team for Meats is going to be the 49ers.
Hmm.
Um, if he's okay staying in that NFC West for the second year in a row, I think Trey Lance is going to be fast. I think he's going to be star. And you have that defense on it. You have Kittle. I think that's a sneaky pick for him if he is okay with the same conference 2 versions in a row. I know some guys, including myself, don't really like that. So, well, Meats is going to be one of the real interesting picks to see where he goes. I think Buffalo is probably the best team in the AFC that he could take. Josh Allen with that escape artist and just that defense is just loaded. Diggs is a stud. Um, Yeah, Meats will be the real interesting one. I think he passes on the Dolphins, though. I don't think he likes the left-handed QB at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's going to hinge on that left-handed quarterback. And then, kind of like you said about the Buffalo defense, they have Edmonds. Even the Bears there are going to have Roquan Smith. I don't really think that I don't think the Dolphins are going to have quite the user. I think Jerome Baker is probably good, depending how well they make him or his ratings this season. But I don't think he's on par with those other two, and definitely not up there with Isaiah Simmons. So that could factor in as well. But yeah, I think it's going to hinge on that left-handed quarterback.
Yep, I agree. And will Meats just say, "I'm done with this scrambling QB mantra that he's created himself," and go with a pocket passer like maybe a Green Bay or something? I don't think so, but
Yeah,
I think the pick is intriguing on what Meats does. So
yeah, I don't think he gets away from that narrative because I mean, if you watch him play, that's how he plays. Um,
I agree.
so you completely changing your offense is going to be difficult. Number 6, Grams, the Cowboys. I don't think there's any way he takes anybody other than the Cowboys. He's already talking about trying to figure out what he's going to do with his roster. Um, I'd left that blank as far as secondary teams because I think that's a foregone conclusion.
Yep, I agree with you. Graham's Cowboy for life. He's going there, and nothing he can say will make me think different.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, it's 6 isn't a bad spot for the Cowboys anyway. If Dak comes back with superstar dev, you got Zeke, you got great receivers, your defense isn't bad. Um, and I
Oh
think they
yeah, no,
they got Micah
that's
Parsons as well. So um, very likely going to be a really good user.
yep, I agree.
All right, so we'll go to 7. 7 is another guy that I think is going to take his favorite team, but I listed secondary teams because he's passed on them before, just as recent as last season. He took the Ravens coming into this year. Obviously, had a shot at the Titans, but the Titans this year added Julio Jones. Obviously, Derrick Henry's coming off a big year, so they're going to be pretty good. Other teams that I think could be in play here are San Francisco and the Chiefs. He passed on the Titans last year to go for really a stacked Ravens team, probably one of the best teams in the game. So I could see him passing on the Titans for another stacked team. But he's been saying since the beginning that he's going Titans, and then they added Julio Jones. So I think this is going to be a Titans pick.
Yeah, I've played with NYT in leagues prior to the SML, and he has usually preferred the good teams, which is again nothing wrong with that. We all want good teams. Um, I was giving him some. Him and I had some back and forth in the chat because someone had mentioned that good teams will fall because people will take their favorite teams. But so far, outside of Prime, people taking their favorite teams. You just said 6 isn't a bad spot for Grant for the
Yeah,
Cowboys. Well, even though Grant has taken his favorite team, the Cowboys are gone anyway. They're not falling. So, NYT had a chance to take the Titans last year and he didn't. And I was giving him some crap about that, but he told me he's taking them this year. So, um, he better be prepared if they are there and he doesn't take them. But like you said, I think Julio Jones puts him over the top. Um, they didn't really have that receiver that in the 21 draft. I'm not sure how AJ Brown looked when Madden 21 first started, but he's going with the Titans, or he's going to really, really hear it from me. He's got no
yeah.
choice.
I think he'll go Titans again. The only thing I think that could scare him off would be Prime in the AFC South, because right now that AFC South is shaping up to be Prime's division in a landslide with Woods and NYT in there.
Yeah, and NYT and Woods, they have a fun relationship there in the north. I've really enjoyed their back and forth. Um, so I think I would love to see that continue, and I honestly think they would too. So let's get NYT in a Titans uniform. I'm kind of sad because that's a team I would love to have, but even if he didn't take them, they're not falling to 23. So
Now they should be gone. I would think no later than 14 with Tiny, but
a-
they're gonna be long gone by
absolutely.
then. So
Yeah.
number 8, this is another one. I probably could have left out the backup teams, but I've got Coop taking the Chiefs. It's his favorite team, not to mention probably one of the more talented teams in the game. You got the best quarterback in the game, fastest receiver. Hell, you got two of the top like 3 fastest receivers. Travis Kelsey, obviously. I put the Giants and the 49ers there, but realistically, Coop's going with the Chiefs.
Yep, Coop's going to take the Chiefs. It's his team, and I like Coop, and he deserves it. He deserves to be this high. He deserves to get the team that I'm assuming wants. I'm with you on that one. So I hope Coop gets them. that'll be fun to. He's one of the more underrated players in the SML. Coop ran a league with Mike. That's how I got introduced to those guys. That's how I got into the clique.
Mm.
Um, Great guy and always been underrated. So I'd like to see what he can do with those Chiefs.
Yeah, there's a couple things that make that pick interesting to me too. Is number one, Coop's one of the first guys that he's ready for the cycle to be over, and I wonder if that changes when he's got his favorite team. And then number two, if you look at what he did with the Titans, he built a really solid defense, and that's what the Chiefs are kind of lacking. If he can do the same thing with the Chiefs but keep that offense together, that's going to be a really dangerous team.
Yeah, if he doesn't get an elite player in, or two like this year in that AFC West, watch out. Coop could definitely be a playoff guy most of the seasons, if not all of them, depending on how that AFC West shakes out. And I think if Mike does go Chargers, I think Coop would love to be in a division with him. So
Yeah.
uh, that would start things out right, and even push him more so towards the Chiefs.
All right, so number nine, I kind of debated with this one because I can see Faz going a number of different ways. Obviously, I've got the Bills, the Washington, and the Bucks. I think he wants to have a really good defense, especially after these last couple seasons complaining about his run defense, no defensive line. Um, I think defense is a big thing, but he also likes his receivers. Um, and the other thing he doesn't like is Meats. And if Meats takes the Dolphins, I could see Faz taking the Bills, going to the AFC East, and just harassing Meats for the next 7 or 8 seasons.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, is the if anyone caught, and hopefully everyone caught the end of First and Goal, where Faz spoke a little bit about meat. So does he follow him and try and make his life miserable, or does he just want to avoid him? That'll be the interesting question. I think Buffalo's a good spot for him. He's obviously going to have a X factor quarterback probably in Josh Allen. Just Diggs is going to be a fantastic receiver. That's just a good team. He's going to have a nice defense there, like you said. Edmonds, they have White, they have Ed Oliver. They're going to be pretty solid. Um, if he doesn't want to chase meats and make his life miserable, um, I do agree the football team is a good one. I think the Giants are a sneaky pick for him.
Yeah.
Um, Daniel Jones is probably going to be better in the game than he should be, maybe, and he's going to have speed everywhere. That team is going to be ridiculously fast. He gets another good running back, a rare upgrade to Dalvin Cook with Saquon. There aren't many better. Um, and that defense has some pieces, with Adoree Jackson. He could build around that. Peppers. I think the Giants are a sneaky one for Faz as well.
Yeah, I could see that for sure, especially the way he likes to air the ball out. You get, Galladay, Ingram, Ross, Kadarius Toney. You're adding a lot of receivers when he was kind of limited with Jefferson and Thielen there in Minnesota until he brought in some more guys.
And no matter what they make John Ross overall,
Yep.
he's gonna be good. That's just the way Madden is, and that's John Ross is built for Madden. So
Yeah, you see
that's
plenty
that's
of
gonna
guys
be
just
in their
throw
scheme.
throw deep to their speedsters and it seems to work. So unless that changes, um, guys like John Ross are always going to be near the top of your receiving core regardless of who you have.
Yeah, and speaking of speed, let's go into the next one, huh?
Yeah, so he made it very well known. He's looking for a fast receiver. So assuming that the Chiefs are gone, I've got Figs taking either the Ravens and Marquise Brown, who he's really played pretty well with this cycle, um, Henry Ruggs and the Raiders, or John Ross and those Giants. And I ended up kind of settling on the Ravens. I think of the three teams, they have the better defense. And then if you watched Figs play any, especially early in the year when he had Trubisky and that kind of carousel of quarterbacks, he liked to run the option plays a lot. And there's no better quarterback that's going to do that than Lamar Jackson. So he's going to have his Lamar Jackson. He's going to have his speed at receiver and a decent defense. I think Figs takes the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's clear he's going to go speed on the receiver end. We segued into that. I think the Ravens are going to be. That's just a fun team. I mean, I know
Yeah.
I gave NYT a bad time earlier in the show, but I mean, how can you not want to have Lamar Jackson? I know he makes some crazy throws. He did for Mike in the primer. He's done it for NYT. But that's just a fun guy to have. I think I like what you have. Ruggs, and we talked about the Giant speed. I think the Cardinals could sneak into
Yeah.
Figs's into list. They got Isabella, who is kind of like Ross. He's better, obviously, but he's going to be really, really fast. Got a decent defense there. Um, but yeah, he's going to go speed at wide receiver, and then it's just really what quarterback does he want? Um, and I think he's going to want a fast one. So I do look at the Ravens and the Cardinals as my two choices for Figs.
Yeah, and getting down to, where we're picking now, other division mates can start to become a little bit of, I guess, factor into your choice. So it'll be interesting. Maybe there's somebody he wants to avoid or somebody he wants to go after. Um,
Absolutely.
and the other guy he'll have J.K. Dobbins, who he also traded for. So really, half his Bears team now is already on the Ravens. Might as well just take them off the beginning.
Yeah, there you go.
Number 11, this was an easy pick. Kind of like we said with Woods, you got Trevor Lawrence, your best rookie in a while. That's going to be fun to play with. You got to take your favorite team. Lawyer with the Falcons is going to be the same thing. Kyle Pitts is going to come in as the best rated rookie, it seems anyway. Um, and so I don't think there's any way he passes on him.
No, I mean, this is a good year for Lawyer. I know the Falcons have always had kind of a good team, but they've always been a cap mess, and you've always had Matt Ryan, who's not always been the most fun Madden QB to have. But I think he can get out from underneath that contract pretty easy. He no longer has Julio counting against him. I mean, that's kind of a bummer, but Ridley's going to be a stud. Like you said, Pitts is someone who I love. I need a tight end in my offense, and I
Mm-hmm.
would just die to have Pitts. So it's a bummer that Lawyer is an Atlanta fan, and I'm not going to get them. But yeah, and that defense, I played him, and his
Yeah,
defense, I don't know how much of it was stock, but oh my goodness, that defense was good.
yeah. Grady
Um,
Jarrett in the middle is an absolute monster. Just disrupts everything.
yeah, holy, and I know they have a really fast linebacker. I can't think of his name, but
Deion
uh,
Jones.
that's him. Yeah, I mean that defense when I played him, I could almost do nothing against him. I got lucky to sneak out of Atlanta with the win. So good for Lawyer. I think he's walking into a really one of the better Atlanta Falcons situations, cap wise, youth wise. Good for him. He takes the Falcons, easy one.
Yeah, I mean, other than losing Julio Jones, they should be really good. And then to offset that, Calvin Ridley's probably going to end up being a lot better than he was to start. So number 12, we've got Dan. This one was pretty easy, I think. I've got him taking the Steelers. It's his favorite team. It's a good team. Um, as of right now, I've got me taking the Browns. So um, he always wants, he doesn't want a cupcake division, and he wants guys that he can schedule with. Well, he's not going to have too much of a choice at 12 on his division mates, but um, at least knowing I'm in there, it's not going to be a runaway division, and it's not going to be hard to schedule with everyone. So I think he's going to take his favorite team. That being said, if something changes, the two teams I have are actually probably a surprise. He said he wants to stay AFC, so I have the Texans and the Jets. Texans, especially if they unload Watson and get some draft capital, he gets to follow Prime, so that meets his first two requirements for a division. But he also has a lot of pieces that he can move around, and he can kind of has a blank canvas with those teams. And I think he kind of enjoys the team building. You've seen it this cycle. He'll take a quarterback, trade him for picks, build up some normal dev quarterback, trade him for more picks. He's always trying to acquire picks and build the team how he wants it. And I think outside of his favorite team, those other two teams kind of give him that flexibility.
Yeah, I think I had the Giants. I had Dan going to the Giants in my head for sure. They mimicked the Broncos really well with that speed, and a huge upgrade at running back. But he said he's going AFC, and I believe him. So I the Steelers are his favorite team. I think like Najee's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
He might not be great, but he's going to be pretty good at least. The cap situation there, I think, is going to be better. He can unload Ben if he doesn't retire after season one, or heck, he could probably unload him season one if he wanted to. The Texans are an interesting one. I don't see Dan doing it necessarily unless he really, really wants to chase Prime, and I am all for that. But I've got him pegged with the Steelers too.
Yeah, I think unless somebody snags those Steelers ahead of him, that's where he's going. Um, and then at 13, the one guy that I think could have taken the Steelers ahead of him, but is going to be picking the spot behind him is Dump. Uh, Dump, I have taken Washington. The other two teams, obviously, the Giants have Saquon Barkley. I think a big requirement for Dump is some type of run game, and I even have him possibly taking the 49ers again just to get Trey Lance kind of fill that Jalen Hurts role. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Washington. They've got a really good defense. They've got Antonio Gibson, and kind of like he did with Hurts, he can probably bring in just about any quarterback, and he can dev them up to be where they'll be good. And you're looking at a receiving core that includes McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, two really fast receivers. So I think Washington would be a really good fit for Dump.
Yeah, I think that he's joked about the Texans a little bit and chasing after Prime. I don't
Yeah.
see it happening. I don't think they're good enough. I don't see him going back to the Niners either. I like the I'm going to say the Giants a lot on this
Yeah.
broadcast. Someone's going to take him. I've said it in chat. I think once the ratings come out, they're going to jump onto a lot of people's boards. I like your reasoning for Washington. I'm curious what he's going to think about how much he's going to prioritize a good defense. The Niners have had one, and he has said repeatedly, "You cannot play defense in Madden, or at least in this version." So, will he really care about having a good defense and think that it actually matters? I think Dump probably goes Giants. I think the speed's too much for him to pass up. And like you said, Saquon, he won't have to worry about developing a running back. He's going to have one fall right into his lap potentially. I'm going to go Giants with Dump.
Okay. So 14, we have Tiny. Tiny, I think, would love to have the Titans fall to him, but that's just not going to happen. I've got him taking either the 49ers, the Giants, or the Bears. I think maybe the Bears just because I think they could be fun to play with. And I think he might just, after missing out on the Titans, he might just be looking for somebody fun to play with. The Giants, we've talked about their offense and how explosive they're going to be. But I have him staying actually in the NFC West and going with a 49ers team that he's seen twice every season. So he knows how good that defense is. And then kind of the same reason as the Bears with Justin Fields, you're going to get a rookie quarterback who should be fun to play with in Trey Lance there in San Francisco. So I think them being an all-around better team. Tiny, one of those guys that's not really going to win enough to build up a team. I think he could be a playoff team as long as he's got a solid team already in place. So I think the 49ers are a good fit for him.
Yeah, I'm hoping Tidy takes a good team and keeps it together this time, and doesn't trade away the best player. The Niners would be a good fit. Again, it comes down to do these guys, I wish I could get in their heads, do they want to stay in the same division twice if they're not using their favorite team? I think that's going to be a big factor for everybody, and including Tiny. So I'm going to go. Let's say he doesn't want to be in the NFC West again. I think the Bears are a really good position for him. Allen Robinson has finally got his due in Madden. He's one of the top 10 highest rated wide receivers. He
Mm-hmm.
gets a young quarterback, nice little defense there. I like the Bears. I personally think the Bengals would. They're
Okay.
not a great team, but
Yeah.
he kind of gets a young quarterback and he can kind of do some things. But please, Tiny, if Bomber takes the Browns and Dan takes the Steelers, don't punish yourself 2 years in a row. Stay out of that division. Get into a division that isn't so tough on you 6 times a year. I like the Bears here.
Okay. Well, that was a perfect segue for the next one. We've got Paulie at 15. And you've got guys talking about chasing a tough division, and then you just talked about Tiny. Make sure you don't, punish yourself. Well, one guy who definitely is not going to punish himself because he will run from any type of competition, it seems, is Paulie. He went with the AFC East last year, hoping it was going to be a cupcake division. Unfortunately for him, PJ got replaced, and you've kind of taken a hold of that division when you want to, it seems. So I think Paulie, seeing the AFC teams starting to kind of stack up, I think he's going to go to the NFC. And really, there's not a better team out there for him than the Buccaneers. He's going to get Ronald Jones at running back, so he doesn't need to give Prime his first for his third string running back. He's going to have receivers everywhere. He's got a really good defense. He's not going to be able to complain about having a poor team because the Buccaneers are going to be returning all 22 starters from a Super Bowl team, and then on top of that, he gets Tom Brady for at least a couple seasons, and I think that combined with not really having anybody except Lawyer in your division as of now, and Lawyer's one of those guys that he played last cycle as the Packers and the Vikings, so I think he might want to kind of rekindle that rivalry. It's a guy I think he knows he can beat, so he doesn't feel too threatened, and I think he'll go with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean you're right on the head. Paulie's not. He can joke all he wants about joining the AFC South or some mega division, but he's not going to do that. I wasn't here for the last team draft, but just being in the AFC East, I mean, that that was Paulie's division until I got here. Sorry, Paulie. So and one thing about so Lawyer's the only one that's picked a team in that division,
Yep.
but the Saints and the Panthers aren't exactly appealing to a lot of people. We haven't even talked about any of those teams yet. So chances are they're going to fall, and the more they fall, the better the chance they fall into some hands that aren't very good potentially. I
Yep.
know cycle to cycle is different, but odds are the Panthers and the Saints aren't going too high. Um, so I think Paulie would like that. I kind of snuck Paulie tried to sneak him into the AFC West. I think he looks at Coop and Mike as probably someone that people he can beat,
Yep.
but he would have to take the lesser teams in that division with the Raiders and the Broncos. Although the Broncos aren't that bad, but the AFC is just too stacked in the other divisions. In the NFC, I think if he goes there with that division, he can probably consistently win it, be a playoff team in the NFC, and not have to worry about the top dogs that are apparently shifting towards the AFC again.
Yeah, and I actually have the Broncos as one of the three teams because I mean he's kind of drooled over Dan's roster for the majority of this cycle, and it would be interesting to see what he could do with that same roster, and with Mike and possibly Coop in the AFC West, like you said, that could be something he'd look forward to. But then come playoff time, it could get really nasty in the AFC. So I think he just kind of distances himself and runs over to the NFC.
Yeah, and I wasn't here the first couple of seasons that Paulie made the playoffs. Probably, I'm assuming he did. So I don't know what happened in those, but he seems to get into the playoffs consistently, and he'll be there this year. Um, but and then he just gets knocked out. Like me, that's the kind of player I am. And so maybe he gets a little bit tired of that, and goes to the NFC to try to avoid those guys that keep knocking him out this year.
Yeah, and the Buccaneers, you can't fault him for going after his clearly favorite player over favorite team, um, and it's a
Yeah,
stacked
and
team. So
and you might even get a couple years out of him. I don't know if
yeah,
regression isn't as bad. He might Brady retires late, so maybe he gets a couple of years out of his guy, and that'd be good. I know Paulie loves Tom Brady, so um, I hope he does get to use him a
yeah,
little
it'd
bit.
be really fun to watch that one. Next up is Future. I have Future taking the Cardinals. The other two teams are the Giants and the Packers. Reason I went with the Cardinals, Future went with I think it was the Seahawks last cycle. So he had a mobile quarterback. He had a lot of success last cycle. This cycle he takes the Raiders. He's got a fast receiver, but he doesn't really have a quarterback that he likes. He went through Derek Carr. He went through Dwayne Haskins. Now he's like top five in interceptions. And he's complained about his defense. I think he can go to the Cardinals. He can get his fast receiver. He can get his good mobile quarterback, and then he's got an instantly improved defense, especially if they don't move on from Chandler Jones anytime soon. So I think he's going to take the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. If Figs goes Cardinals, and the Ravens end up falling, then I think Future might even go with the Ravens. I think what you said is exactly what he's looking for. I don't think the Giants, who you have pictured, fall to him. I would be really surprised, but I guess I'm the only one hyping up the Giants. That's going to change. I'll say it as many times as I need to. Um, I like the Cardinals pick here. Green Bay is a sneaky one. We haven't talked a lot about Green Bay, which is surprising now that Aaron Rodgers has reported today, which means Devonte Adams is going to be happy.
Yep.
He's come out and publicly said, if Aaron's there, I'm there. If Aaron's not there, I'm not there. So I bet you that Devonte will be fine and that smoke will blow over. So, but again, gosh, I talked about Figs, but how can you pass up the fun of Lamar Jackson? How can you pass up the fun of Kyler Murray? He's a fun size version of Lamar. So
Yep.
it's a good spot for Future. He gets that Isabella fast receiver, good defense, better defense than the Raiders had. I like that. I like that pick.
All right, so 17, and now we can stop talking about the Giants. I've got Noel taking the Giants. Also have him with a couple surprise teams, the Panthers and the Vikings. Um, Coming into this cycle, he had the Buccaneers and he had a really good running back and he had a lot of success. He kind of surprised everybody and took the Bills fairly high. I want to say he was in the top 12 or so of the draft. I mean, he was pretty high up there. Took the Bills. Never really got a fast running back. He had Devin Singletary, who's like a 64 speed. I mean, super slow. And I think he realizes, and I think he even said that he was missing a fast running back, and like you've said about 7 times so far, they got speed in New York, and no better running backs in the game than Saquon Barkley. And I think that's where Noel's going to go. Except this time, it's not going to be a surprise. It's a pretty obvious pick, I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree with why you chose the Giants here. My only disagreement is I think they go earlier, so I can't give him the Giants. I like your next two options. I think CMC would be good for Noel. My understanding is Noel's success from Madden 20 was based on a really good running back. He'll get that. And not only will he get that, but he should be good for the cycle,
Yeah.
for the most part. Um, and I think the Vikings are in the same boat. Nice running back there, obviously. I think a sleeper team, a real sleeper team, here could be the Bears, because I think Justin Fields, when those ratings come out, are going to start getting people excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to have to get a running back because I don't think I can't remember his name. You
Tariq
should know
Cohen
his
and
name.
David Montgomery.
Yeah, and Cohen, I mean, Cohen is he's not he's just not a Madden back somehow. They
Yeah.
always just seem to. Um, so he'll have to get a running back. But I mean, my understanding is the running back he had in 20 was a drafted one. It was his name French.
Yep.
So maybe the Bears surprise him. I just don't think the Giants will be there. So I think he goes running back or Fields here.
Okay. So 19, I've got Rowan, and as you witnessed, Rowan loves to talk smack. The only thing he loves more than that, though, is Faz. And I think he saw what Faz did with the Vikings this year in that offense, and I think he's going to try to emulate it. He's already kind of taken some of the stuff out of his playbook, and he had Barkley, had a lot of success, but I think Barkley's gone by 18, and I think he's going to try and mimic what Faz did this cycle with the Vikings.
Yeah. When I played Rowan last night, it was probably one of the best games I've played from well, it was fun, but from a competitive back and forth, like, game to watch. If
Mm-hmm.
you didn't watch it, go back and watch it if you have a free 45 minutes. I do that sometimes. We played a fantastic game. Rowan made clutch plays. I made some mistakes, and let him back in it that are on me, and he played great. He has a really good run defense. I did have a lot of yards, but it was basically on two runs. So I think he looks a little bit towards the defense. I like Chicago in there if they get this far. The Vikings, I mean, maybe he talks to Faz and sees if that's a good place to go. Um, I, I kind of lean towards the Bears here if they're there for him. I think Green Bay is the sneaky pick. I think people are going to be sleeping on Green Bay's defense because we talk about Aaron Rodgers, we talk about Devontae Adams, and they're going to have Aaron Jones. Um, but I think Green Bay is a sneaky pick for Rowan. He passed really well versus me, and he's actually passed really well this season.
Yeah.
And he's made it very clear. Him and Graham's had a back and forth. He's made it very clear that he can pass. And if he wants to continue that, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are a nice 1-2 punch to have. I just hope that Rowan, he's a good passer. He's good at talking smack. He's also good at disappearing. So hopefully Rowan, no matter who he takes, consistently sticks around.
Yeah. Hopefully he does, because that may even push up his draft position, and maybe he can get that Giants team again if he wants them. Um,
Absolutely.
so next up is 19, and we have October, and I wasn't really sure where to go with his pick because he doesn't, he's not saying too much in chat. He's not really on any of the shows, so I don't really know what he's thinking, but I do know he likes Deshaun Watson. He's never tried to move him or do anything with him. And I think if Fields is there in Chicago, I think that's going to be his pick. I've also got Carolina there and the Bengals because I think they're kind of fun young teams with a little bit of flexibility anyway. And I think being Houston, he had no draft, no flexibility. I think maybe he'll just take the Bears and enjoy Allen Robinson and Justin Fields.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing the Bears fall this far, but I think they're obviously in play if they do. I think everybody at this point, if the Bears are falling, is going to give them a look. Justin Fields, like you said, anytime you can have a young, athletic quarterback like that, you're going to be interested. And let's just say they don't fall this far. Um, the Bengals, I think that's a fun, underrated team. You get Joe Burrow, who the only reason that he didn't play half the season is because he got hurt, and he played fine. He's going to be rated well in this matter, and he's going to have good development. He may even continue to be superstar. So that's a good, nice little young team. I think the sleeper pick here, unfortunately for myself, is Seattle. I think he gets Russell Wilson, he gets DK Metcalf, he
Yeah.
gets Tyler Lockett. You got to get a running back there. They have Chris Carson. Nobody's going to use him but me. He's slow. Penny's okay. He's going to be probably 90 speed, but he hasn't really played much. Probably low injury. That's a good defense. Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner, Carlos Dunlap should get some love. He had a great second half with Seahawks. I think Seattle's a sneaky pick here for October. I hope he doesn't go there because that's my team and I want to have at least a shot at him. But I'm gonna go Seattle at 19 for
Okay.
October.
And actually, I'll go back to number 5 in meets. I think I said that they have Jamar Chase. They actually have Jalen Waddle, and which is
Oh,
better because Waddle's going to be like a 97 speed.
Chase is a Bengal, right? That's the
Yeah,
one they got.
Chase is a
Yeah.
Bengal.
hmm
Okay, so moving on to number 20, I have Colt taking the Broncos, and this basically came down to kind of looking at Colt the way he plays, and he's got a decent defense in New Orleans, but he loves his tight ends for whatever reason. He loves throwing to the tight ends. So it came down to the Broncos with Noah Fant, the Raiders with Waller, and the Eagles with Goddard. Seemed to be the best tight ends still available on the board. And I went and gave him the Broncos. I think with that receiving core they have, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. They just added, which one did they add? Surtain, I think, in the draft.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right.
So I think they're going to be a really good defense. And then he's got his fast tight end that's fairly young. And Drew Lock is, I suppose, better than Derek Carr. I don't know if he'll be better than him this year, but either way, he turned Gardner Minshew into a superstar by throwing to his halfback and his tight end. So I have him taking the Broncos.
Yeah, I like the three helmets you have here. Tight end, receiving running back. I think the Panthers, for that reason alone, kind of sneak into Colts
Mm-hmm.
radar. CMC is the ultimate receiving back. They don't necessarily have a tight end. I actually can't even think of who their tight end is. The last one I could think of is Greg Olson, and I know he hasn't been on there in a while. But you can get a tight end. You can figure out a way to get a tight end. But Waller, man, that guy's going to be nuts. He's a stud. He won me my fantasy football league. Just a great, great receiver. He's a receiver and at a tight end position. And the Eagles are interesting too because you're going to have he does like, even though he traded Green, he does like to roll out. And Hurts would give him that ability.
Yeah.
Goddard should be good. Do they still have Ertz
I
too?
think they do still have Ertz. I don't think he's gone
Yeah,
yet.
so there you go. You have two tight ends that for Colt, and there's a good example. Let's say Colt takes the Panthers. Maybe he can get Ertz or Goddard from the Eagles
Yeah.
owner. So I think there's some because I doubt the Eagles owner keeps both unless they really, really, really value two tight ends. Um, I think it's Broncos, Raiders, Eagles, but I'm going to throw in the Panthers as a little bit of a sleeper if they're
Okay.
still there.
All right. So 21, I have two step, and I have him taking the Panthers. He gets McCaffrey. He took the Bengals again. Another one that took him fairly early. I thought they would have fallen a little more. He took the Bengals. I just think the Panthers having McCaffrey and that stud running back, and they have actually a really fast and pretty good defense. So I have him taking them over the Packers and the Saints. Um, I think McCaffrey is just too big of a playmaker to leave on the board at this point.
Yep, and I think yeah, I agree with you. And if McCaffrey, if the Panthers fall to 21, because as we're going to talk about in a second, 22 is a foregone conclusion
Yep.
if it goes the way we think it is. The league is going to send two-step and Colt messages and say, if you let the Panthers fall to 23, you're getting the boot. Um, because if CMC is there for me, that's an easy one. I'll
Oh
take
yeah.
him and just run all day. Um, and so I think two step goes the Panthers, whether by choice or by force. The Saints, we haven't really talked about them, and I know you and Finn's had a good back and forth about the home field advantage. Just looking at the home field advantage, I think the Saints is the only one. Now, assuming EA doesn't break the coding like Finn's had
Yeah,
said, and that's a big assumption, but just let's just say it works right and it's balanced. The only one that seems overpowered to me is the Saints. That's the one where someone runs the wrong route, right?
yeah,
That's overpowered. I mean, the squiggly lines for Seattle's not going to make a difference. You know exactly what they're doing. You saw the play art. You know exactly what your guys are going to run. And then there's some other gimmicky ones too. The Saints one's kind of overpowered, and if the game releases and it's as overpowered as it sounds, that could push them up the board. So I think it's funny we haven't talked about them yet. You get Kamara. Um, you get Michael Thomas, who I know is not really the best Madden receiver, but with the improved route running that EA has been touting, maybe it makes a difference because that's what he's going to excel at. But yeah, if McCaffrey's there, how do you pass him up, especially with the way the run game's been this year?
yeah. So you kind of alluded to it already. 22, we have RD taking the Raiders if they're there. I, I mean, they kind of not only are they his favorite team, but RD clearly likes to run the ball, and then you get Josh Jacobs, and then adding Henry Ruggs, which will be his Darius Slayton. Defense, not really that great. He's definitely going to miss having Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, but I think he'll make do. He's obviously one of the better players in the league, so he'll be able to develop anything he wants as far as
Yep.
defensively.
RD is one of my favorite guys that I've played Madden with. I have never beat him, and in fact, sometimes I don't even get close. But I never have ever said, "Wow, he cheesed me," or I enjoy playing RD. I learn a lot when I play RD. I learn a lot when I watch RD, and I've heard some guys talk about that too.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the few guys that users a safety. I would love to see him get the Raiders just because I respect him a lot. That would be a fun division. He would get to join Mike and Coop, who he has a lot of history with. It would also be a fun division because he would run it.
Yeah.
If Mike Coop and Colt are in that division, RD runs it. He probably runs it. He probably runs most divisions, and he's held his own in a very brutal NFC West. But I really hope that he gets the Raiders. One thing I could tell you though, RD will not quit if they go before him.
Well, that's good to know. And actually, looking at the way this is shaken out, I mean, it's pretty likely he gets the Raiders. I would say. Um, I would probably give it a 65-70% chance that they fall to him. I wonder if that gets Mike to maybe reconsider, since the Chargers aren't his favorite team. They're just a team that kind of meets his requirements. But if you think you're going to be in a division with RD after being in one with Faz, where he kind of ran the division, I wonder if that may affect him at number 3.
I'm gonna say that that's not going to affect Mike.
Okay.
I think he likes the challenge. Yeah, I think Mike. I don't think he would choose his team to avoid someone like RD. I think Mike would choose his team to avoid someone he doesn't like to play, but he enjoys playing RD and
Okay.
he would not dodge him.
All right. Well, then that's going to bring us to number 23, which is you. I have Seattle as your number 1, but you've made it pretty clear that they're not locked in at your top spot because you may not enjoy playing with them as much. So I have Cam Akers and the Rams as probably the best running back left available. Maybe Kamara, but you've complained about Camp's speed a lot. That I would think you're going to want somebody a little faster than Kamara, and I think that'll be Akers. And then the Jets rookie quarterback, who's probably going to be a superstar. 94 throw power already. He should be good, fun to develop, and then just tons of picks and tons of cap room. It's a blank slate. Uh, I think those are going to be the 3 teams you'll probably be selecting from.
Yeah, the Seahawks, they're my team. They've always been my team. I love that roster. A lot of fun guys on there. Just not just that it's a pretty good team. I just like a lot of the personalities on there, and I would love to have DK, even though I'm not a super good passer. I think I would just have fun having him, and of course I love Russ. He would be on my team until he died. Um, I just would never trade anybody. That's always been
Mm-hmm.
the issue when I've gotten Seattle in leagues, and it just takes kind of the fun out of it because I find ways to hold on to guys just because they're on my team. So Seattle's on the radar. We'll see what happens. I mentioned if the Panthers fall to me, I'm taking them. If the Titans fell to me, they're not going to. There's some automatic locks. The Rams are very, very intriguing to me. I'm not someone that avoids my favorite team's division. I personally, it's Aaron Donald that I watched him just dominate for RD
Yeah.
in some games, just took it over. He's going to be even better. You got Jalen Ramsey. I like to run, but I also, for the most part, can play pretty good defense. And if I don't, I lose. So having a nice defense would help. The Jets are intriguing. They're nice and young. Um, and that their quarterback looks like he's going to be pretty good. The Saints, I will not take the Saints under any circumstance. They just don't appeal to me. They usually have cap problems that might be alleviated with Breeze, um, but yeah, there's some sleeper teams. I wouldn't mind the Lions necessarily. Swift would be a nice
Yeah.
back to have. He should be star. They just didn't play him very much. He didn't really do anything wrong. They got a lot of picks. But I think what I've said in chat, I would probably pick my team based on division, unless there's an obvious pick. Um, I'm gonna play in a division where I enjoy playing the other guys, and that's kind of one nice little perk of drafting down here,
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
is you can do that.
Okay, so moving on to 24 then, and these last couple, 8 or 9 picks, I think a lot of it's going to come down to like, is there a player they want to use? Is there flexibility? Because you're not really going to have a lot of solid teams. But at 24, I think the Packers may be the last of the actual solid teams. So I think DW is going to take them. It may come down to between the Eagles and the flexibility of the Jets, but you're going to get 1 year of Aaron Rodgers. You can decide if you want to keep him and move on to Jordan Love. Having two good quarterbacks is definitely a nice problem to have in Madden because you can trade one for whatever you need to build the rest of your team with. And I think he loves running the ball. He probably leads the league in carries just about every season. So Aaron Jones would be a nice, probably superstar running back that he can use, and I think the Packers will probably be an easy pick for him.
Yeah, it's surprising seeing the Packers fall this far, but even myself, I haven't really talked about them too much. I've talked about them a couple times, but um, that team is sneaky good. When I played Mike, he took me down to the wire with that team, and now and that's not, I'm not saying that Mike can't take me down to the wire, but that team was just good. I mean, Jair was always in my mind. Kenny Clark just wouldn't let me run up the middle. Aaron Jones, he had him back then. He was shifty. He didn't have Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers in the right hands could be dangerous. Devontae Adams is going to be an absolute stud. Um, Zadarius Smith was in the top 10, I think, outside linebackers or edge rushers. I can't remember what that was. So that team is pretty darn good. And if DW wants to kind of get away from um, a real stack division, that wouldn't be a bad spot for him. I don't think the Bengals would be a bad pick for him either if he wanted to continue the young QB, young team way. They're just not as filled out as the Packers, so I like that pick.
Yeah, and I think picking this low and getting what's probably the top talent in the division, at least with the Packers, I would say as a team they're probably better than the Bears and the Lions clearly, and probably even the Vikings. So that would be a nice head start on your division, I think.
Yep.
All right, 25. We've got Field. Um, for some reason, I just when I picture Field, I can see him with Joe Burrow. I don't know what it is, but I think he would really enjoy using Joe Burrow, and so the Bengals were just like an instant fit, and obviously they're going to be pretty good as well.
Yeah, so we are gonna have to call him BD Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah,
If he takes the Bengals, it'll be interesting here. Fields gonna have a chance to play in a division with his brother if this goes the way we think it is. I don't know how much that means to him, but if the Texans are gonna go, this might be a spot. If unless he just avoids Prime and doesn't want to be
yeah.
in his division for one way or another, um, then the Texans are obviously out. But that would be fun to see Field and Prime go at it, the Bro Bowl twice a year.
Yeah, I didn't have him
Um,
take the Texans because he had the Texans 2 cycles ago, or last, not this cycle we're in, but the last one. And then he obviously had his choice at, I think, just about anyone in the AFC South. I think maybe even the Titans hadn't been picked yet, and he went to Tampa Bay. So I just didn't think he's going to go back and go after Prime.
okay, yeah, I could see him with the Bengals. I think it'll be interesting. Fields, if this goes the way we think it is, the AFC's the competition level
Yeah,
is really leaning AFC. Does he recognize that and jump to say the Eagles or the Saints?
Yeah.
Um, who are two solid teams. I mean, that neither one of those teams is bad. Um, he, I know I just bashed the heck out of the Saints. They're not bad. They're just really bland to me and always have been
Hmm.
when it comes to Madden. So it'll be interesting to see what Field does. But I think having Burrow that's better than Hurts in my opinion, and
Yeah.
whoever the heck the Saints have at quarterback.
Yeah. Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so 26, I have QP, and it really came down to two teams for me. I have the Eagles up there, but it was the Lions or the Jets. Both of them, down this far in the draft, you're not going to have a great team. So a team with a lot of flexibility becomes worth its weight in gold. And I think for that reason, he's going to go with the Jets. Really, probably going to disappoint Latin, who's picking at 27. QP had the Lions in primer. He actually played really well with them when he was in primer. So I have no doubt that he's going to do the same with the Jets, and then he gets Zach Wilson instead of having to find his own quarterback. The only way I see him going, maybe the Lions here, would be if he knows Latin's picking behind him and wants the Jets.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the thing is he lets Latin have the Jets at this point. They fall. I don't know if the Jets fall this far. I'm kind of skeptical on that, but if they do get right before Latin, I don't know if he takes him. Um, but I mean, Latin kind of did it to himself. There's some guys picking ahead of Latin right now that joined mid-cycle.
Yep.
So if he really wanted the Jets, he could have had them. So we'll see what QP does there. I think if Field doesn't go Bengals and they're there, that's a good spot for QP as well. It is a tougher division, um, but than the AFC East. But the Jets he would be dangerous with those Jets. He
Yeah.
would make them. He would restore the glory. He'd have that QB. That's a good young team. I just saw they got their wide receiver has like a huge change of direction rating. I mean, it's like in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
Um, so that's a pretty solid team. I looked at their depth chart on ESPN, and it's not a bad team at all. Um, so I would actually be interested in seeing QP get the Jets and how he would compete in the AFC, a stacked AFC. I think he would be right there.
Yeah, he would definitely be right there. And that AFC is getting stacked because you look, if you believe that there's three teams in the AFC right now with me, Prime, and Dan, um, and then Meats moves to the AFC, RD moves to the AFC, QP moves to the AFC, Faz moves to the AFC. So it just gets more stacked in the AFC. So it could be that he sees that and maybe he does move to the NFC and take those Lions again.
Yeah, and if I pass on Seattle, they could fall into his lap, and I think he would definitely go Seattle. So there's a lot of ifs.
Yeah,
Surrounding this bottom quarter here with the competition level and some sneaky teams that might fall. But the Jets wouldn't be a bad fit for QP, and that would add some nice competition into the AFC like they need more.
yeah. So after Latin at 27 gets done crying about playing with the Jets for this whole cycle and having a terrible team, and then they finally draft a superstar quarterback, and he's not going to get him. I think he ends up taking the Eagles. Um, they've got Miles Sanders, they got Jalen Hurts, so he'll still have a quarterback in place. A decent defense. They're a little aging, and there's not much flexibility, but Latin's sitting on like 100 million plus cap space anyway. It doesn't really make any moves, so a team that's got flexibility isn't really going to do anything for him anyway, except give him nice numbers to look at in his cap space. And the Eagles are green, so he may not even notice.
Yeah, I think Latin goes Eagles here if they're there. The reason being, I play Latin twice a year, and I've played him twice a year since I got here. Obviously, he loves tight end streaks.
Hmm.
Um, the guy loves tight end streaks, and he loves throwing them early. I mean,
Yeah,
we just talked about Colt and the Eagles potentially with the tight ends or maybe trading for one of them. If Latin gets them, I don't know if he trades either one of them.
yeah,
Um, he loves single back, two tight end set, sending them both on streaks, and whichever one you don't use or cover, he throws it to the other one. Um, I, I think that continues if he gets the Eagles. He's got to, you know, Eagles, Saints, Rams, you can do something with those teams. That's one thing I've said about even if you're picking down this far. Most NFL teams, I say most because we'll get to that in a second, have pieces you can work with. But I think two tight ends is too juicy for Latin to pass up.
Yeah, I think so too. So 28, and I'm not even going to talk about the other teams that could be picked here because I don't think it's going to matter. There's five teams left, but I think Clink takes the Lions here because since he joined the league, he talked about he likes to acquire picks and kind of build his team with young players. Looking at the teams remaining, there's only one team that can really do that. That's the Lions, and they kind of fit it perfectly. So as much as it would be a disappointment to pick this low and have pretty bad teams, I think this is probably the best case scenario for Clink getting a team where he can kind of build them the way he wants.
Yeah, I think the Lions are a nice little team, and if someone really enjoys drafting, or if we somehow, and I don't know with the new scouting feature not coming out till later, if I know guys create franchises and they'll sim them and they'll do drafts. If the draft is as juicy as it sounds, maybe the Lions aren't here.
Yeah,
They got a nice package of picks from the Rams. But I think that'd be a good spot for Clink. I also think the Rams would be a good spot for him. Especially if that draft isn't as juicy, based on someone simming it and figuring it out. Just because the loss of picks won't matter. That's a nice little team for, and Clink is good. He could do something with them. But yeah, the other teams in this conversation, outside of the Saints, home field advantage potentially being OP, they're really not worth talking about.
yeah. Speaking of the Saints at 29, I have D Muse taking the Saints only because it's his favorite team. So I don't think there's any way he passes them up, and he's probably actually happy to get them.
Yeah, and if he and that's not that's a he gets to be in the NFC, where he might even be able to run it if things go as planned, or at least be one of those top dogs, um, to get another chance at a Simbardi. So if that's his favorite team, good for him, and I think he would take him.
Yeah, absolutely. So then 30, 31, and 32, I kind of had trouble figuring out who would go where because um, I could see each one. Maybe Finn's taking either one of them except the Texans. He's been pretty adamant he doesn't want the Texans. But I gave him the Rams. He's going to have a good defense, which will be a nice change from the Lions. And then he'll still have Akers, which can kind of take over for that Adams role. And he'll even have Deshaun Jackson, which will kind of replace Wiggins that he's got. And then he gets Stafford back. So, he was stuck with Hartwig. Maybe now he can see what the Lions actually would have been.
Yeah, Finn's is sneaky. He can blow some games up where he's just not even close to competitive. Um, but he hung a lot of points on Dan. He did get blown out. He blew that game up, but he plays sneaky tough. He played me tough when I played him. He played me tough in the league we were in before this. Um, I think that's a good fit for him. Good defense. I did not know they had Deshaun Jackson. So that that's a good team for him. I think Finn's with the Rams could definitely do some damage.
Yeah, and especially because the other two choices aren't that great. Um, I've got ZZ at 31, passing spooky this year in eval points, and ZZ's from Houston, so I got him taking the Texans. If Watson's there, I mean, at least you have Watson. If Watson's gone because of a trade, you have whatever they got for him. Uh, really, worst case scenario though, Watson gets suspended, pulled out of the game, and then you have nothing. But if you're choosing between the Texans and the Patriots, and one's your favorite team, or at least the team where you live, I'm gonna guess ZZ goes with the Texans here.
Yep, the Pats are going 32, unless Figs or Paulie takes them. And I don't know if Paulie's a Pats fan or a Tom Brady fan. I don't know which one he values more, but neither one of those guys is going to take the Pats. So they're 32. So that leaves Easy with the Texans. You had mentioned that you thought they were going to go earlier, so I don't know if you've changed your tune on that. I do think there's a possibility that they go earlier. I think a Deshaun Watson trade, um, if it happens, they will not get enough back to justify taking them. I don't think any team is going to spend a lot to take a risk on a guy who they don't even know if he's going to be allowed to play.
Yeah,
So I think the 31 is the likely spot for the Texans, unless they go earlier, but I don't really see that, especially with that division being pretty stacked. Or maybe not stacked, but there's NYT and Woods are no pushovers, and then of course you have Prime. So I think 31 is the most likely spot for the Texans.
yeah. The only way I see the Texans going early is if somebody that can kind of push Prime decides that's what they want to do, and and really, RD, maybe if he can't get the Raiders, I could see him doing it, and then maybe Dan or Dump. Outside of that, I don't really think anybody's going to take the Texans.
Yeah, and if you lose with the Texans, you're the Texans, and if you
Yep.
win with them, I mean, it's quite the challenge if you really want to challenge yourself, or if you just, like you said, if you really want to build a team. There was some chat. They do have all of their picks now. They're
Yep.
not whatever Bill O'Brien did. I think the damage is done for now. And you can start to repair that team. It would be a fun challenge. And like I said, you've got Deshaun Watson. That's a good piece. Very mobile quarterback. Cooks is only 27. Speedy guy. That probably about rounds out that roster and what's worth talking about.
Yeah.
But I think they got that Justin Reed, I think is his name at safety. He's
Yep.
actually not that bad. But yeah, I think 31's the likely spot if we're actually trying to be realistic.
Yeah, and then that leaves Spooky with the Patriots. Welcome back, Spooky. You get the worst team in the game. But maybe they won't be so bad. I don't know. Luckily, we don't have cameras on. You can't see that. I'm unable to say that with a straight face. Um, but he might be able to do something with them. They're not missing picks. They didn't trade up to get Mac Jones. Um, so maybe he can do something with them. They just don't really have anything exciting there other than a decent defense, but it's aging.
Yeah, I mean, once Mac Jones's throw power came out, it pretty much solidified them in
Yeah.
the 32. I mean, if he was something special, maybe he pushes some people up. But this team has 90,000 tight ends and Latin. We didn't even talk about it with Latins or Colts. So, I think they got Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. They probably got some other guys too. Um, but yeah, this is where they belong. Gilmore's contract talks. There's turmoil there. He's their best player by far. He's also old. I enjoyed having Gilmore, but he just, I wasn't entirely competitive when I was passing, and so I decided to get rid of him. The team's just not good. Their running backs, I don't think are going to be that great. Their receivers, I mean, in Keel Harry or whatever his name is requesting a trade. That's when you know it's bad.
Yeah.
That guy's, I don't know who would trade for that guy. And they blew a first round pick on him. So I think their development's going to be bad across the board. And the players that they do have, like you said, they're old or just, Mac Jones has no arm. Now, they don't have a team where you need a quarterback with an arm, but still, it's hard to justify them being picked anywhere other than last.
Yeah, and that's I think we're pretty dead on with how that's going to shake out. But so that's been our 32 team mock draft. Um, we're a little over an hour as opposed to 30 minutes. So you're probably late getting back from lunch, but uh, hopefully everybody stuck around, enjoyed it, and appreciate you coming on, sharing your thoughts on the mock draft.
Yeah, that was fun. I think there's a lot of good discussion here. I'd be curious to hear what the league has to say about our opinions and whether it's about their pick or about someone else's. I'm curious about the chatter that it's going to bring. This is honestly, I think, one of the most fun. I think obviously playing the games and the first season's fun, but I think the team draft is just way up there on the fun scale. It's a clean slate for everybody,
Yep.
and then the first actual off-season draft is always exciting because that's going to be your rookie for the cycle. So it's an exciting time in the SML, and I'm curious what everyone has to think about what we thought. And I
Yeah,
appreciate you having me on.
absolutely, anytime. And like you said, we want to hear what you think. So leave the comments in the comments section, or obviously the SML chat is easy way to get a hold of us too. But yeah, looking forward to it. I'm sure we'll have at least one or two more of these before the actual team draft takes place. But um, yeah, so that's gonna do it for the team draft. Thanks for watching, guys.